tired of watching talented people like yourself waste your energy, time, and effort. Security leaders need to communicate clearly and tailoring the message. Learn the key skills of business, strategy, people, and master these three domains. What value does your security architecture and your team bring to the enterprise? I need to help business answer those three questions. Security is complicated, but you can uncomplicate it. I'll give you the honest, straight, uncomfortable truth. They don't want you to know about the secret. I went from hacker to CISO in just 4 years, but it wasn't because I was the best coder or a hacker. Heck, being the best coder or a hacker doesn't get you into the top 1% of security leadership. The most common advice you will hear: just get certifications, bro. Just become a hacker, dude. Just become a tech expert, mate. But here's the problem. If you're serious about getting into cybersecurity leadership, here's what no one's telling you. Your technical skills alone won't get you the job. Your technical skills alone won't get you into leadership. Your technical skills alone won't move the needle forward or your career forward. How do I know that? I've worked more than 20 years in this industry. I've been a CISO, I've been a hacker, I've interviewed hundreds of security professionals. I've hired cybersecurity professionals in all different kinds of roles, including leadership roles. And time and again, I've watched brilliant minds, both with technical and non-technical backgrounds, get passed over for leadership roles over and over. And I'm tired of watching talented people like yourself waste your energy, time, and effort because no one's telling you the truth. You are the CEO of your career. Managing your career is your job and your job only, no one else's. So when someone tells you all you need for experience is to be a tech expert, that's the absolute lie that people keep on telling you. That's the one lie that has prevented so many smart people to skill up or to grow their career further and faster or to land their dream roles in leadership. Now, I'm not saying if you come from a technical background like myself, you're doomed. You aren't. Because you can use it to your strength unless you let it stand in your own way of progress. So what no one's telling you is what it takes to get into leadership without the leadership experience. And once you get there, how do you accelerate your career? Today, I want to save you years of career frustration by sharing with you my honest advice on what actually gets you into the cybersecurity leadership roles and actually gets you to succeed. Not what a professor told you, not what some certification promised you, the real honest skills that executives are desperately searching for, whether it's a role of cybersecurity director or a BISO or a CISO or a head of GRC. I'll give you the honest, straight, and maybe sometimes even uncomfortable truth on what it takes to break and lead in the field of AI and cybersecurity leadership, the real skills that companies are searching for. So let's dig in. Let's start by talking about the reality of cybersecurity leadership. I was talking to one of my students who recently wanted to get promoted to a cybersecurity leadership role, but he was unclear of what the responsibilities truly were and what was expected of him in that security leadership role. Whether it's a director of security or CISO, doesn't matter. The top 1% of security leaders, even though that came from the tech background, are not tech experts or just coders or hackers. To get to the top 1%, they learn the key skills of business, strategy, people, and mastered these three domains. I'll give you an example. When I was still working as a hacker, I got thrown into the deep end without even realizing it when business leaders started asking me questions about their business risk. They couldn't care if we were popping a cross-site scripting or SQL injection or whatever technical findings we had. All they cared about were three things. Is there a risk to my business? And if yes, what's the impact on business operations? Is it helping me any way in my business to make it better, cheaper, more efficient? What would it cost me to fix it versus to just ignore it and let the risk materialize? And here's the mistake that I almost made at that time. This was still very early in my career, but back when my job was literally very technical. I could have been just doing hacking if that's all I wanted to do. Nothing wrong with that. But that alone wouldn't have given me the career boost that I got in the next 4 years as I broke into CISOship and as my career skyrocketed even further in security leadership. So even back then as a hacker, I realized, fortunately for me, that if I wanted to move the needle forward, I needed to think and look outside the four walls of tech expertise. I needed to help business answer those three questions for almost everything we did. Those answers would come from a tech expertise alone. It's like trying to become a restaurant owner by being the best chef. Sure, being a chef might help, but they're not at all the same skill sets. And here's why it matters. As I said, I've seen brilliant security engineers or tech experts hit an invisible ceiling, wondering why they keep on getting passed over for leadership roles while watching seemingly less technical people getting promoted above them. So, if technical skills aren't enough, what actually does matter for cybersecurity leadership? What are the skills that actually get you promoted or land you a security leadership role and help you succeed your career further? Number one, strategic business investment. See beyond day to day operations and see beyond just security. Let's say you're working in the role of head of security architecture. Why are you putting the measures in that you are? What value does your security architecture and your team bring to the enterprise? What business problems is it solving or addressing? What is it costing the business to have those measures in place versus not to have them? Can your security measures bring in efficiency and deliver real and big enough savings over time? And how do you showcase that? We often see only from the lens of security. That's a big mistake. The harsh truth is, a security leader or security teams aren't there to provide the security controls. They're there to serve the business and its bigger mission. A big part of your job as a security leader is not to reduce risk to zero, but rather to cap the risk, especially any existential risk that could bring the company down, to cap it to a level that even if it realized and even if it materialized, it would not be existential anymore. Let's say your company is a energy company providing energy and electricity to companies and countries worldwide. Now, a cyber attack on your energy infrastructure could bring down your solar panels, your wind turbines, as well as your core energy pipelines. On one hand, you need to be able to showcase that your security investments are business investments that can bring that existential crisis down to a level that's acceptable to the business. Even if, say, one gas pipeline were attacked, you would be able to provide business continuity through another one which was segmented and would not be impacted because of the way the security architecture is implemented. On the other hand, you need to be able to showcase that the cost of investment is lower than the cost of risk materializing. And the cost of risk materializing doesn't just have to be the financial cost of losing the business or operations being disrupted or completely down. It could also be fines, lack of compliance to regulation, which could lead to licenses being revoked to operate in certain regions, losing critical or personal data, cost of breach and recovery, safety of human life, etc. Here's the reality check. Most companies still see security as a cost center. It's your job as a security leader to justify your role and your role's existence, as well as the existence of your team, and the value that the investments that you're making in cybersecurity is going to give to the business. There are two main types of value you can provide. Number one, you're either getting them more business, or number two, you're managing the pain or risks of losing the business or any negative impact on the business. This strategic thinking of how you would provide value in your role in both short term and long term is crucial. Great security leaders see around the corners. They're not just reactively fixing today's problem, but they're also anticipating tomorrow's threats and business needs. You need to understand how your company makes money, its strategic priorities, and industry dynamics. I've seen security leaders lose credibility instantly by proposing controls that would cripple the critical business functions that they didn't understand. I landed my CISO role by presenting a 2-year security roadmap aligned with the company's mission and growth plans, showing I understood where the business was headed and how my role and my team would provide them value in their journey. 2, effective communication. Influence executives and teams. That's your job. The most valuable security leaders can translate complex technical problems into business impact. When the CEO asks, should we worry about this security issue? They don't respond with technical details. They say, well, this represents around about $2 million risk to our European operations with a 30% likelihood of exploitation. Here's what we recommend. This is approximately what it will cost you. These are the benefits and these are the trade-offs. If your employee asks you about a policy in place that they believe is stupid, it's your job to explain how this is helping them to serve the business in a better way. Once an employee came to one of my directors asking, why do I have to go through these security trainings? I don't even work in security. They explained to them that if they weren't aware of at all of some of the key security challenges, then they could unknowingly become a part of a cyber attack towards the business. And while that can still happen, at least it reduces the likelihood of that happening, ultimately allowing them to protect the business, adding value in their role, even if it wasn't security. Security leaders need to communicate clearly and tailoring the message to the audience in any setting, from boardrooms to all hands meeting, doesn't matter. I explain the same ransomware cyber attack completely differently when communicating with different stakeholders. For boards, I would present one-page executive dashboard with financial impact and strategic implications, what initiatives were in place, what is further needed, etc. For IT and security teams, we would run quarterly threat intelligence forum discussing the current threat landscape and what intel that we had from different sources, CSIRs, etc. For employees, I would share stories around ransomware attacks that have crippled businesses, along with showcasing a simple what to watch for guide with visual examples. This audience aware and tailored approach ensured everyone took appropriate action at their level. This means speaking in terms of impact, not fear, using stories and analogies, not jargon, being concise. Because if you can't explain your point in 2 to 5 minutes, you don't understand it well enough. And I get it, security is complicated, but you can uncomplicate it. That is your job. Number 3, showcase leadership skills without the leadership experience. Here's the number one question I get from aspiring security leaders. How do I showcase leadership skills without the leadership experience? Before I tell you that, let me tell you one key thing. Titles do not make leaders. I get it, yet companies will look for leadership title before they can give you the leadership title. The incredibly stupid catch-22. There are a couple of ways to get around it, especially as I said, it's not title that makes you a leader. So you need to dig deep in your career and be able to showcase that you have that leadership experience without the leadership title. And here are a few examples. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. There's a lot that you can do, but here's some of the examples of how you could break that catch-22, or at least how I did it. A, leaders prioritize business, not just fixing vulnerabilities. So your number one choice would be any real examples from your own career and your journey where you led a project or a team, especially one that involved business, where you made a tangible impact on business operations, revenue, efficiency, compliance, or any other way provided tangible value to the business. One of the guys that I promoted from a security engineer role to an information security officer, which by the way is a big jump, was solely because he was leading vulnerability management, and in his role, he was able to connect the lack of compliance for some of the key business functions, not all functions, just a few, through the key systems that serve those business functions against those critical vulnerabilities in form of a real-time monitoring and mapping of those vulnerabilities to those key systems and key functions. Now, it may sound like a trivial task, but it isn't. Through that, we were able to showcase that how some business functions were highly exposed to complete lack of compliance in a particular region. Now, he was not a manager, but he understood the business well enough to be able to showcase that and provide that as one of the business cases for promotion in his interview. Here's the secret I'll tell you. From a hiring manager and an employer perspective, it matters more how well you can work with and provide value to other business functions than just within your own security teams. B, lead cross-functional projects. Now, this is a critical one because this is where you can show some of those managerial skills without being a manager. One of the guys that I knew, he made it to chief security architect even without his own team, without any prior managerial role. Here's how I did it. He volunteered to coordinate an IAM project. Why IAM? Well, it's one of those domains that requires architecture teams, business, requires security, even HR, and various other stakeholders outside just security, making it truly cross-functional. He wasn't a coder, he wasn't a hacker. He knew basic IAM from experience, but he wasn't a manager either. But it was one of those security initiatives that connected and worked across multiple teams. One of the other mentees of mine led a privacy impact assessment that required collaboration between legal, marketing, IT, development team, despite having no direct authority, no people management experience, and later getting a role as a privacy governance lead in a different company. You can truly showcase leadership by facilitating these cross-functional initiatives, coordinating the project, effective meetings, documenting decisions, driving the project, keeping the project on track, and really showcasing value to the business. Through all of this, you don't only demonstrate your subject matter skills, but leadership capabilities that can get you your next promotion or your next leadership opportunity, either in the same company or somewhere else. C, being a forward-looking leader. Now, as March 2023 hit and ChatGPT reached the top of its hype cycle, and there were generative AI tools everywhere every week, dozens, if not hundreds of them that were coming out, and employees started using them. My team and I got a bit concerned. I mean, we were happy about the adoption of AI. That's great. But we were also concerned about the risks that it would mean to our business. And at the same time, we also wanted to make sure that we were leveraging AI for our business in a good, safe, secure, ethical way, right? So in that moment, I talked to my team and I talked to some of my peers, and we created an AI governance policy. We came out with that right away, which told our employees not just what not to do, but also what to do. Because of that, we were able to actually manage that in a very, very effective way, and also in a forward-looking manner. So as we were finishing the governance document and we were discussing with different stakeholders, my CEO comes to me concerned, and she tells me, or she asks me basically, well, what's happening? I mean, there's a lot happening with AI right now. Most likely our employees are using it. What are we doing about it from a security and a risk perspective? So I tell her, well, don't worry. We got it. We're actually going to be releasing a governance document very soon. And here's what it means to be a forward-looking leader. You want to take away the pains from your stakeholders before even it hits them. That's what forward-looking means, right? So this is crucial skill set that you would need as a security leader. In fact, this is how I broke my Catch-22 as well. I showcased all of these 3 examples with just one business case. Before my first official CISO role, I was working for a financial services client that was merging with 2 other companies at the same time. I positioned myself to help the CISO in that organization, and slowly but surely came to a point where I became his right hand, leading all security and privacy projects on his behalf, managing even the integration of ISMSs across all 3 organizations, and even reporting to the executive leadership team on his behalf, showcasing the value of security to business and executive leaders. That fintech company was also planning to expand to other countries, so I got involved as their security and privacy lead, showcasing how their security and privacy program would serve ahead on their go-to-market journey, getting them more business in the other region, as well as ensure compliance and regulatory conformance as they go into new regions, right? So through this one business case, I covered all 3: prioritizing business, leading cross-functional projects, and looking forward ahead of the next steps. That experience was massive, and I wasn't even an employee of that company. That wasn't my biggest business case in general, but that was my biggest business case to get and land my first official CISO gig for a large financial services company across Europe, serving even as head of security, enterprise risk, and business continuity, in addition to my CISO role. Yes, I get it. Catch-22 exists, but you need to think outside the box to break it, and you can break it. If you think you can't, you won't. In my security leadership masterclass with 80 plus lessons, read insights from 12 plus security leaders and my entire security leadership framework, I show step by step how not only to break into security leadership, but what to do when you get there as a security leader or as a CISO, how to work with business, executive leaders, and even board. Tangible, no BS, no fluff framework with a lot of templates and resources. So if you want to grow even further, check it out right away. Number 4, influence without authority. Security cannot survive in silo. If you're working in a silo as a security leader, you won't get too far. You need to be able to work with business stakeholders and their teams, even when you don't have the necessary or needed authority. In one of my CISO roles, I started with 0 team, 0 budget, and 0 seat at the table. Within 1 year, I got my own budget. I grew my team to more than 10 people in just 1 year, and became the first CISO to officially become a part of the executive leadership team, getting me the rightful seat at the table. Now, that didn't just happen out of thin air or because people liked me. Well, they did like me, but that was not the reason. These are the struggles that you have also in other security leadership roles. So how do you go about them? How do you showcase influence, or how do you influence without authority? In security, you really control all the resources that are needed for running a project successfully or to reduce the risk. You must influence developers, IT teams, executives, and vendors to make security a priority. One technique I've used successfully is to create security champions in each department who advocate for your priorities from within. Now, those security champions often have their own key roles in the department outside security. So your job is to make their life easier to champion security for you. Most of my security teams were keen individuals who wanted to get into security, so I leveraged that drive and passion. B, Superior security leaders read, understand, and thread that organizational politics carefully. They know when to push for changes, when to compromise, and how to navigate the complex stakeholder dynamics. They build coalitions, trust, and credibility before big security initiatives and know exactly whose support they will need to lead and to succeed. Even as a CISO, I still remember when my team and I had to lead a massive project that would bring massive changes to how employees would work going forward. It was necessary for security or better posture of security. But on top of that, the project would also implement stricter requirements on all endpoints, which no one really liked. I mean, it was good for security posture, but no one really liked it. So I created an ambassadors group that consisted of key people from different teams that would represent all employees and their interests. We aligned any policy implementation changes with them before making any big or key decisions. We communicated often and regularly. It was a very tricky project that required a lot of political navigation, so we brought those ambassadors closer to us and built harmony, leading to the implementation of the project. Without that, successful navigation of the project would have never succeeded. See, this is so underrated and so important. The best security leaders are exceptional storytellers who can make security relevant and personal to everyone from board members to frontline employees to even janitor if necessary. They craft compelling narratives about security's role in business success rather than relying on fear tactics, creating a culture through inspiration instead of just compliance. You want business to prioritize managing a risk? Well, you need to be a good storyteller. You need to get budget. You need to be a good storyteller. You need employees to prioritize safety and security in business as usual scenarios. You need to be a good storyteller. Now, when I say storytelling, I don't mean fiction. I mean reality coupled with what's in it for them, inspiring them to take certain action while making it compelling for them. That's great storytelling. That's what I did in every leadership role I've been in. Heck, I treat every business meeting, especially when my team and I are leading, as mini motivational and storytelling sessions to inspire the stakeholders to take the actions we want them to take. Number 5, crisis leadership. Let me paint you a picture. It's 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Your company has just discovered a major breach. The SOC teams are texting you, but your phone's on silent because it's freaking 2 a.m. So they call you again, it rings again, and now this time it literally wakes you up. You see all these messages flowing in from your team trying to reach you and saying it's highly possible that we've been hacked. The executive leadership needs a briefing by the morning. Legal is asking about disclosure requirements. You need to coordinate with the PR team on what to tell the press. And somewhere in between, a team of engineers and SOC analysts are waiting for your and business's approvals on some of the key decisions that need to be taken in a crisis moment like this. Now, what if I told you none of this is fiction? It is a scenario, or that's really what happened to me in one of my sister roles on a Friday morning when my husband and I had gone off to the beach for the long weekend. In that moment, do you think anyone cares what you're doing or where you are? In that moment, do you think anyone cares whether you can write custom exploits or that you know the OSI model by heart? Now, you do need to understand the basis of security architecture and technology and the basic security concepts. Absolutely you do, sure. But your teams are taking care of all the technical stuff. So what is expected of you? 3 things. A, the ability to make high-stake decisions with incomplete information. As is true with every incident and crisis, every minute, every hour, and every day usually reveals new information and sometimes completely contradictory to what you've known so far. So every minute passing by in a crisis or a cyber attack scenario brings loads of new information, often making previous assumptions completely obsolete and thereby needing a change in the entire strategy of how to go forward. So you need to be able to make that decision and pivot in a matter of minutes if needed. B, the ability to balance security against business needs. Time and again, I've seen companies shoot themselves in the foot while containing an incident because they didn't realize in taking the measures they just did, not only did they shut down the compromised assets, but also the environments that were absolutely critical for the business without being intentional about it. They didn't consider the dependencies, and more often than not, they didn't even know about those dependencies, so they couldn't make the right judgment call, whether isolation was a better choice or failover or any other mechanism. C, the absolutely critical ability to communicate in all directions and effectively in a high pressure environment. In those moments, I needed to be able to stay calm, despite that I was panicking inside, and communicate with the tech teams to understand what the situation was. understand and communicate to them the overall strategy for what needs to be done next, then talk to the executive leadership to explain what happened, what it meant for the business or what it means for the business, and what are we doing about it, and answer all those questions from different stakeholders, but in a composed, deliberate, and clear manner, including your customers. In those moments of crisis, you often need to have much more frequency of communication than you can imagine. I mean, sometimes I had 3 calls per day with different teams and 1 to 2 calls with leadership on a daily basis. And then in between that, talking to the board and sending them updates. It's about communicating complex risk to people who don't speak your language in a way that they understand what it means for the business and what are we doing about it in real time, because those risks have now materialized to not only become incidents, but maybe also crisis. And here's the part that no one's talking about. It's about taking responsibilities when things go wrong, because they will. I still remember the time I had a major cybersecurity incident as I was working for a big financial services company. As a CISO, I realized we had messed up bad. We had a cyber attack that affected critical customer-facing systems. There was a misconfiguration issue, but it had gone unnoticed for months, ultimately impacting us and our customers. But you know what? That wasn't just on my team. That wasn't on them. That was on me. While the business is overall accountable, I was responsible for informing the customers the harsh truth that we messed up and in owning up to what we were doing about it, both in the short term as well as our approach in the long term to improve our posture. There's only one way to do it. Take ownership and tell the truth. That's the weight of leadership. It's not just about technical skills. Soft skills matter more. People skills matter more. The importance of decision making under pressure is monumental to great cybersecurity leadership. Leadership means taking responsibility for security failures, helping business and more understand their accountability and role in it. Yep, that's often your job as well. Learning from it and making sure you don't make the same mistakes again, because mistakes will happen. You just don't want to repeat them, and you want to learn from them, and you want to improve with them. So after having shared all these skills that actually matter, that hiring managers and companies are looking for in their search for a security leader, these are the 3 mistakes that are still holding you back. Staying too technical and ignoring business needs, thinking certifications alone will get you there, not building relationships with your key stakeholders. And here are your next steps to fix it. 1. Develop leadership skills while still in a technical role. Titles don't matter. Go back to my point 3 to learn how. Number 2, get mentorship from cybersecurity leaders. And if you want, check out my security leadership masterclass, where more than 12 top leaders and I share how we did it with real examples and no fluff. And number 3, start thinking like an executive. Understand your business, ROI, budgets, and business impact. Security's job is not to serve security. Is to serve the business and its mission. If you want a step-by-step guide to making this transition and then succeed as a cybersecurity leader to become the top 1%, check out my Cybersecurity Leadership Masterclass. That's all for today. This is Monica signing off.